evening, everybody. Welcome to your Thursday night edition of Not on Our Rangers podcast tonight. We're a day early, so hopefully it's not just the four of us. There might be a few of you at least watching. It's 2 days after the Champions League qualifier where we made it through to the playoff round. It's been a little bit of negativity since then, which we'll cover a lot over the next hour or so, or a lot of negativity. So we've got a full house tonight. Ross has come back and joined us after it's a night that works for you through night and a Thursday night, Ross, isn't it? So you managed to come on and give us some of your views tonight. Because on although you did say it before, you've not seen Rangers play this season yet.
No, see, other people would have watched this here, seen the black cap and thought it was CJ Noble back with another video, but it's not. It's me. No, mate, I've actually not seen the last two games, so at this point I'm a Rangers acquaintance, not a fan, Gary. But as far as I'm concerned, everything's gone great, mate. The last game I seen was Plzen, so as far as I don't know what everybody's moaning about, to be fair.
And Scott, you're just back into work. How are you this evening?
So, Gary. So I've been a bit negative myself the last couple of days, but I think we all have a lot on the back of what we've seen, but I think maybe it's time to take a leaf out your book, Gary, and look for some positivity.
I'm going to challenge you as the night goes on with various points that we've been thinking about. So, because I think there has been a bit of a mad, crazy reaction. It's like 4 weeks into a new tenure. So, Ricky, how's the life in Cyprus? You tell me it's 45 degrees over there at the moment. You've got
Yes, mate. You can't breathe. You can't do anything, mate. So it's lie under the AC all day. And I'm like a dog, actually. I'm like one of your dogs, mate. I'm just lying there with my balls out all day. It's a different pod, mate. Different pod, but it's unbearable just now. Hopefully it cools down soon, mate. I'm heading to the beach life next week, so hopefully it'll be 10 degrees cooler there, mate. But far too hot, mate.
So in tonight's show, we'll look back on the 2-1 defeat against Victoria at Plzen, and was it 4-2 aggregate win. We'll kind of talk a wee bit about the reaction probably over the last few days, or maybe the last 2 weeks. Look at some of the transfer incomings and outgoings, what they are, and then we'll wrap up with a short review probably of the Alloa game on Saturday, because it is a game that should need no real debate and discussion. So I suppose first, Scott, your reflections on the game. There's been lots of talk about how we were terrible. We conceded 27 shots. It was the worst performance I've ever seen in my life. However, we did the through.
To be honest with you, Gary, it was awful. The performance was really bad, apart from maybe 10 minutes here and a couple of minutes somewhere else. But I just thought we were very flat. I thought we were very poor overall, but I thought some of the players looked sharp. I thought, it's no interest. They were lost. They didn't know what to do. I thought they were overcomplicating things far too much for themselves. Instead of just trying to play football, you can see sometimes when they're making runs, instead of passing forward, they turn back again to go back to this wee triangle with Butland, Suter and Giga. And I don't know, Gary, I don't know if I'm getting told too much stuff, the manager. They don't take it in, or they can't take it in. I don't know if the system doesn't suit some of these players, or it's just a mixture of quite a lot of different things. Maybe they don't understand what he's saying, or they don't want to understand it. I don't really know, but that team weren't great, Gary, but they had their chances. Jack Butland was probably the only one the other night had pass marks for me.
Yeah. Ricky, what about you? You watched it as well, and after the group chat, there was some.
Yeah, I try not to get involved in, like, there's people that have just went way, like, at the bottom of the roller coaster, sack Martin, everything's shite, set everything on fire, we're this, we're that. And then you get the other people who are like, oh, you've got to give them time. My concern watching the match, Gary, and I know we've got better quality players to come into the starting lineup, but my concern 6 games in watching the performance was, we know how Russell Martin wants to play football, and we know what he's going to ask these players to do. The game away in Europe was the first time I've watched us, and I've actually thought to myself, are these players capable of doing what Martin is asking them to do? Because we all know what he wants them to do. He wants them to play high pass, one-touch football. Full-backs are creating spaces where we're trying to find the spare man to create chances and stuff like that. But just now, everything looks a massive disjointed mess. The defence is wide open. We're giving away so many chances. It's incredible. I've never watched a Rangers team when the goalkeeper has the ball to take a kick out. You're nervous like a team has a corner against you because it's just absolute carnage. He's passing it to the centre backs, or he's chipping it. And it's not Butlin's fault, to be fair. I understand what Martin was saying. Butlin's chipping the ball into midfield, and our players are world class when they pass the ball backwards and they're going backwards. It's an easy situation. But see when they need to turn around the other way and do 180 degrees and go forward and create spaces and create chances, then they look like we've signed them from Dunfermline, and they look like they're B-team players. They're and the match on Tuesday was the first where I was really concerned about everything. And it's not just Martin, it's about the players we have. I'm looking at it thinking, we know the style of football he wants to play. Can these players, are they even capable of doing it, even when it's supposed to be fantastic, Gary? That's my question to Russell Martin. And I don't know if we have the players that are even capable of playing the football that he wants to play. And that was the first time for me. I was like, this is a real concern, because I've always thought to myself, he can sign this player, he can bring in another free, bring in a left back, bring in a left centre back, bring in a striker. But I just think that I don't know if we have the quality for the football that he wants to play. And that's a big concern for me, mate.
Well, we'll come back to that. I'm going to challenge you on some of that later on, I think, because there is. So Ross, one of the things, I suppose, European qualification, getting through a game, you won 3-0 away from home, played really well. You lose a game narrowly 2-1 from there. Generally speaking, that's happened to us many times over the last couple of years, even when we're doing well in Europe. But for this one, and I was talking to Ricky and Scott and saying that one of the things, I went back and watched the Red Star Belgrade game when we won 3-0 at Ibrox and lost 2-1 away. And Alan McGregor saved us repeatedly in that game. We get battered. But I don't remember the reaction to it being quite as severe as it was losing 2-1 on Tuesday night. Do you think it's been it's accurate, or do you think it's been a bit over the top?
I think the knives have been out for Russell Martin since he was announced, with a large majority of the supporters, Gary. And I got on board with the idea of him coming, and I think I still am. But I don't know whether I'm just saving myself for a heartache when the Americans aren't as reactive as the bowling club boys when it comes to fan pressure. Listening to players that have played under Martin before, and they tell you that you're learning so much, you're doing unnatural things, but once it clicks, it's great, and he's great to work for. And you had Butland last week in the press, kind of like, I don't want to be responsible for another manager being sacked. We're all in. So what do you do? We try to implement a style of play with Van Bronckhorst. We try to implement a style of play with Beale. We try to implement a style of play with Clement, and they were all much of a muchness, but you just can't keep sacking gaffers, mate, because it's not as if the next gaffer comes in, picks up all the players and makes a winning formula, as you said, off screen. Like the one time we've done anything, we gave Gerrard 3 years. So I think that this is a long-term project, and as sore as it is, that this could be, and I remember us last year going back and saying, is this a transition year? Will we maybe win nothing but put building blocks in? That could be the case, because if we're building something sustainable and try to bring in younger players, sell for profit, I mean, I'm quite resigned to the fact that he's here to stay. I don't think the Americans will just sack him. He's obviously sold his vision to Thelwell and Stewart and Steinson to get the job. And I think that they'll know that there's going to be pain at the start of this. But the idea is 6 months, a year down the line, you've got people, and it's then their natural game to play the way he wants to play. So I think that I don't think it's helped by the fact that I'm saying nobody, 85% of the fan base didn't want him to start with. But he said it in his own interview when he first came. He needs to find a way to win whilst he's implementing this style, and you'll not look back in the record books in 10 years' time and go, I scraped through against Plzen. You'll say, he beat Panathinaikos to guarantee his Europa League, and he's got a chance to take them against Bruges next week and the week after. So I think nobody expected us to get through Panathinaikos. We did. We've got through the next round, and we're in the hat. So how much reactionary can you be to the European game? I don't know. The league is a different matter, obviously, but I just I struggle a wee bit with and I know what Ricky's saying, people are up and down on the Martin out, but I don't know if we can get Martin out. I think he runs the rabble, does he know? I think we can sack him for the rabble, mate. I think we're going to need to put up with him for the moment. He's mental opinions.
So many comments in the saying, agree, Ross, 100%, Ross, makes sense, Ross. So sadly, we'd wish you'd come on much more because you're obviously the one that talks the most valuable sense. See, it's a fair point. I've seen Curry in the comments as well saying, Ross, just like with you, that if Plzen were any good or if Panathinaikos were any good, it'd be much worse. And I kind of feel that's a bit of a straight. I'm not saying they're Real Madrid, but after we beat these two teams out, they've been heavily criticised as not being very good.
Mate, we're the worst team in the world for that. Celtic beat the teams last season in the Champions League that finished like third and fourth worst teams in it, and they get lauded as if they're European performers of the century because it's in a different competition. Like Panathinaikos would absolutely wipe the floor with both the teams they beat last season. So we've been carrying the coefficient, and at the end of the day, you can say, if Panathinaikos were better, but Panathinaikos couldn't play their wing-backs as far up the field as they usually would because Gassama, Ant-Man, our formation worked against them. And the same with Plzen. We killed the tie in the first leg, and then we're still really early in the season, mate. I know it's not like me to be the positive one here, but I just think that folk are so reactionary, and it's not worked for us the last three managers to go after a couple of bad results, bin them. The next one doesn't come in and pick up the pieces and we just win. We've tried it, and now we're trying again. And it might be the same as folk will go, we could have got Muscat, we could have got this one, we could have got... What's to say they would have done the same? Muscat wasn't even in the picture. That's how confident the Americans were that he could do it for us.
Sorry, Cara, I know your comment was all against Plzen, but I've heard that, of course, different ones. It's not just Plzen. You talked about it there. See, we'll just talk quickly about the game, and I don't want to pick up my main points, Scott, but first 30 minutes, nothing much happened. Pretty bland, I think, both sides.
It was.
We lose a goal, Jeffrey's all over the place. We lose a second goal later in the game, which we'll come back to. Jeffrey's all over the place again, I suppose. Just picking up probably in terms of players, he had a bit of a defensive nightmare at different points during the game, and is obviously subject to a £4 or £5 million bid from Palmeiras, allegedly.
If that's the case, Gary, you take it and you send him at the airport straight away. Listen, the boy's got potential, know that. He's got some attributes that are decent, but we need a left back at this moment in time who we can trust. And if he is away, then we need to sign one very, very quickly because Yilmaz is that far out the door. I think he's training somewhere else. I'm only kidding. I don't know where he's training, but he's that far out the door. He's probably sitting in the lounge at Glasgow Airport that they go to Turkey, and Robbie Fraser's not even had a look at it, so I don't know who will put in there again. And maybe that's how he started Aarons at left back, but I think that's just shot his confidence to pieces, I have to say. I know he was left out the other night because there was this injury doubt, but I just thought the boy's confidence was on the deck. I thought the other night, Gary, I don't know if it was in the back of the players' minds because we're up 3-0, because it is only natural when you're leading 3-0 in a European game, you think the job's kind of done if you see the first half hour out. And to be honest with you, they scored, but it came from our mistake. Basically, we can't defend. That's where it came from. And then a couple of chances, which most of the chances, Gary, came through us misplacing passes or not defending properly.
Yeah.
We were giving the ball away and then we weren't following runners. We're giving them so much space, but our tempo was walking pace. That was the issue. The only time I raised our tempo was when we scored the goal. They had a good 4-5 pass move and before the goal, and then we done it again. But the goal came for a long ball, which we've not done, and that long ball kind of split them open because they weren't expecting it. I think the fans are just looking for something like not just the one style, kind of something that you can see both of. Do you know what I mean? like I said the other night, I mean, I remember Peter Crouch saying if you folk are playing with pressing team and passing team, and Tony Pulis would always say, let them come at you and then I took long because you beat half their team, and that's kind of what we've done against Plzen the other night. Dear Mandy, I forgot he was playing, and he managed to get the ball to the byline and cut it back, and I don't know if they knew shot or pass. It was kind of mishitting.
Shot for him. Shot for him.
Lyle Cameron was superb because he knew where he was going to land, and he got in and he scored a goal, which he probably deserved because I thought he was actually trying. But after we scored that, but there was space, and then they kind of went back to the walking pace stuff, and I think that's what's annoying people, and they're keeping the ball so much, but in 5-yard passes, but these 5-yard passes end up going to the opposition. I think it's just a mixture of a few things, but like Ross says, we have to say to him, he's got his this for. I mean, I didn't expect to get this for at this time because I thought we'd get put out with Panathinaikos. I did say that. I know Ricky always said they weren't good enough, but the Bruges game's totally different. I think they're a totally different side compared to the two we faced. But to get this far, we're guaranteed group stage in Europa, an extra €5 million, and if we get through to Champions League, we get extra money there. But he's took as far as I thought we could probably go anyway.
Yeah. So, Ricky, in terms of the game, right, I don't think we played well. Nobody's in any doubt we didn't play well. But there was numerous times, and I think Russell Martin alluded to it, that we were 3-on-2, 4-on-3, 2-on-1. So many times in those European games, be it Fenerbahce or whoever it was, it's been clinical. The problem in the game, as much as anything else, wasn't it about how we were playing. It's the fact we were making the wrong choices, and Gassama was probably worse than it over the course of the night.
Yeah, no, we got in so many great positions, Gary, because they were obviously needing to get 3 goals back, 2 goals back at one stage, so they left a lot of gaps at the back, and that's. I think the big frustration comes from we were so good last Tuesday night, and to beat that team 3-0 was sensational. By the way, let's not take anything away from Martin. To beat that team 3-0, to get into nobody expected us to get into this playoff leg, and we've got a chance against Bruges, no matter the negativity is there. And the reason the negativity is there is because we had such a freshness last week to the team. Everything was amazing. We thought it was all rainbows and nice colours, and we turned up against Dundee on Saturday, and just I don't think half the support, or a good majority of the support, expected to see such a pathetic performance. No matter what formation Dundee played, I certainly expected us just to turn up and blow this team away. Then your next game is away, great to get through. But again, the team just looked all over the place. We're giving away so many chances. And to be fair to Martin was super frustrated at the end of the match. He never came on screen, and he never came into the press conference and pretended everything was amazing. He was like, I cannot believe what I am watching. I cannot believe what I am watching with these players trying to control the ball, and how pathetic it was with the players trying to control the ball when Butland was chipping balls into players and stuff like that. So it was so bad for him as well, and it has to get better, Gary. We need to see improvements, and so far we're just. Hopefully against Alloa we'll have a good performance, and we've got something to hang on to and cling on to again. That's what we need to see on Saturday, mate.
Yeah, I suppose that's where I'm probably a bit more positive, is that you can see things. You see little bits of that ball at the middle part, the flick on, all the touches. It didn't execute it very well, and I've seen something, even for the Dundee game, showing some analysis. Maybe I credit John Walker maybe for this one, but on Twitter, he was showing if you play the right ball, do the right thing, you actually see a lot of potential, and it does maybe just take time, Ross. I think that's the argument that people are talking about. Some are saying, when I've heard rumours, suggestions, you should change your tactics because the players don't know how to do it. Now, you don't start off with philosophy and say 6 weeks into it, or they don't know how to do it, we'll just switch it up. But if that's the plan, and you say Southampton managers, MK Dons, have all said after a couple of months it comes good, and then it's really, really excellent. But we're not really looking like we want to give that couple of months.
Mate, I even look at it in my job. You can use a system, or you can use a set bit of equipment every day for 5 years, and then the company say, "Oh, we're updating to Windows 11," and Excel looks a wee bit different. Nothing's really changed, but the buttons are a wee bit different. So you don't whiz about it the way you usually would. You need to stop and think about it, and that's a daft computer program. There's nobody trying to intercept me while I'm trying to use it. I know that people think that. the first thing people will wonder is, how's Ross get an actual job? I thought he had a paper round. I thought he was only about 16 is the first issue. But even daft things like that, mate, there's stuff you do every day. And if something changes drastically, you do second think it, or it does slow down, or you do second guess yourself as you're performing basic bits. And I get it. 5-yard passes, no making them. Jack Butland's never had the ball at his feet in his whole life. Do you know what I mean? And then we're all of a sudden asking him to draw players in to make space. We've got a centre half on the left-hand side who's no comfortables, who's still doing what we spoke about Aaron's was doing on the left and having to turn inside. I think I've seen somebody mention him. I'm hanging my hat on the fact that Asgard is hopefully going to make a difference. Listening to the boys who were lucky enough to go down to St George's Park, and they said he was an absolute standout down there. So I don't know. I don't know if anybody has got a different opinion to me, but I'm sure nobody can disagree with me that Diamandi's been brutal. He's not had one good game this season. Not had one.
Why do you think that is, Ross? Right, because of the one players in the squad that you thought the system would suit, with the technical ability, the body movement, stuff like that, you'd have picked him, wouldn't you? Or a lot of people would have picked him.
No, I wouldn't have. No, I think he's. It doesn't like the physicality. It doesn't like the. I think he's suited to European games and old firms where he's got a bit of time and a bit of space on the ball, mate. I don't think. He's not my thoughts on Diamandi, mate. I'm no dead overly lover of him, to be honest. But he's been the one consistent in the midfield for you. He's started every game as far as I know.
Yeah, he has.
So hopefully Asgard coming in will make a difference. We definitely need a number 9 who can link the play and hold the ball up and put it in the net. And they don't come cheap unless you snap up the only one in Scotland that was going on a freebie. But he's signed in our contract with Hearts. But mate, even down to back to that, we're looking at Dessers and Danilo, and none of them are great forwards, are they? Really, Dessers will score you goals, but is he that link man when the going gets tough? For the highlight, very small bit of highlights I've seen, even his injury, mate, he goes down because a hand brushes against him, throws his cell on the turf, but similar to what he done all last season, and ends up busting his knee. Like he's diving and does his own knee, like. Dessers for me is all sugar or all shite, and the problem is too much of the time it's the shite option where he's letting folk bump into him and looking for free kicks rather than tussling and putting his cell about. But he's another one, when it clicked in the first Plzen game, it looked great, but it's too few and far between for me. I think Igaman coming in, has he got it in his locker to do that? I think the similar to Raskin in the 6, I think Igaman in the 9 in this system's got to be really disciplined. They can't just be floating away out to the right and away out to the left and nutmegging folk in the middle and dropping back. I think it's a really rigid, and I think that's an issue we've got as well. Your players like Raskin only used to being in a box and that's your area and you patrol it. Raskin's all action, isn't he? And I think that's why the 6 won't suit him in this system either.
There's nothing I disagree with there. Scott, so I'm just going to ask you a quick question before we go in. So if 6 weeks, we're 4 weeks into the season, 4 weeks since the first game, if we were to say that you had guaranteed Europa League football, £5 million for the Champions League, and reached the playoff and 2 draws, right, versus being a conference qualifier and 2 wins, what would be the better start to the season?
Probably the first one, Gary, but he's getting judged on his domestic form. It's not the European form, it's his domestic form. See if he escaped 2-1 against Motherwell and Dundee, even if we played poor, people look at the table and say we get 6 points, and that's his issue. It's nothing to do with Europe, it's to do with, because everybody still looks across the city. We shouldn't be, because they're a bit ahead of us. We should be looking to other teams like Hearts and Hibs and stuff like that, because they're catching up with us in the way they play. I mean, Dundee came at Ibrox and just suffocated us and didn't know what to do and were physical against us. And that's where Dessers started his bad performances. He was throwing himself about against Dundee, and he continued it to Plzen. But you're going to go with the first one you said, Gary, because you're in Europe. But domestically, I think a lot of fans are starting to look at it now. I think we've been good in Europe for that long and getting money. Everybody's this is great.
So we
But
take it for
it's always,
granted.
we are probably, aye. We take it being, I mean, like I say to you, I was at a weekend I didn't see the game until I watched it the next day. But a couple of boys who were Celtic fans, they were saying to me, we don't understand how in Europe you can be so good, but in the league you are absolutely awful.
Yeah.
And it's like, even they're seeing it, and our team's fans are seeing it, because you had the Dundee guy, captain, saying after it, when they came to Ibrox last week, they thought they might get something. Dundee should become Ibrox and get in.
No.
Dundee should become an Ibrox and getting scammed. But then we'll go into these qualifiers, and I think we've got a chance here. But we go into it, and people are starting to worry about Alloa on Saturday because how we're playing. Do you know what I mean? It's like European football, like we're not too bad here, but everything else is like we're going to panic.
Mm-hmm. No, I wouldn't disagree. And I suppose, Ricky, I think that's the challenge in it. I mean, I suppose this is going back to this negativity. We've started poorly domestically. Started well in Europe. Nobody can deny that, really. You can criticise the performance much you want, but as a result-driven business, we can't say we want great performances and lose, or you want bad performances and win. That's kind of what it's all about. But it's just kind of ramped up, even if you are winning or getting through it. The negativity after the game, the last 2 days actually has been unbelievable.
Yeah, but I think it's just disappointment, as I said to you earlier, Gary, because we thought we'd turned the corner. We saw the team click and what it could look like, and it was spectacular. We were so good. We had two wide men that were absolutely dynamic. They had pace. They were creating chances. They were all over the place. Ant-Man was fantastic. Gassama was fantastic. And everything looked positive. And so I think fans are just super deflated. And I think that's the way for probably the next couple of months. It's going to be like that, and it's going to feel like that. I still think we've got a good chance against Bruges, Gary. If we get Ibrox singing and we get it really loud, and we'll have a good start from the team. If we get a good result against Alloa, which I'm sure we will do, there'll be changes to the team. You've got quality to come into the team now, Gary, right? You've got Moore to come into the team, who's a player that's valued at about 30 million. So you've got Asgard to come into the midfield. I agree with Ross. Diamandi's been pathetic, mate. As you defend players, and I respect you for it. You're very neutral, but nobody can defend Diamandi's start to the season. And like Martin's saying it, man, like Jack Butland is actually chipping balls into the midfield, right? He's chipping balls into players, and they can't even control the football, for God's sake, man. They're controlling the ball, and it takes them that long to get the ball under control. The players coming and taking the ball away from them. And against Dundee, the pace that we were playing at. So it'll be interesting to see what happens against Alloa, where the changes he makes and stuff like that. He still has to go strong against Alloa because we need to get the victory, taking that and get some sort of positivity into the game against Bruges on Tuesday night. So, but we do have real quality to add to the starting lineup, and hopefully when we bring these players in, it's going to make it look a bit more like what Russell Martin wants it to look like. Because the most annoying thing is, like last Tuesday night, we didn't give away any chances, right? And I still think there's a chance. Like, you look at the games we've got coming up, mate, right? You've got Celtic, you've got Bruges twice, and you've got Hearts, right? And you've got St Mirren and Livingston sprinkled in between the games. So it's all there for this team. A lot of the teams are going to play different formations, different ways against Russell Martin's team. So we are in it. The league start's been a disaster. But if we can get into the Champions League, that will be absolutely incredible. And if you can beat Celtic, and that's there for the players, we have the players. Celtic are not any better. Bruges are a better team than Celtic, and you'll see that over the next 10 days when we play, or 14 days when we play these 3 matches against these two teams. And we have the quality to beat both of these teams, Gary. We definitely do. But it has to click. And if it does click, then all that negativity will disappear again. But I think the good thing about Russell Martin is he's not on social media, because social media I don't think is a true reflection. But I've been a little bit disappointed in the podcast, Gary, if I'm being honest with you. I think you said the same. Like, I think some of them need to calm down a little bit, because they're starting to sound like X too much, where they're sort of like, sack Martin, like get rid of the manager and stuff like that. It's too much, guys. It's the start of the season, for God's sake. Give the guy a chance. Give the players a chance. He can't be on their back as much as we are at the start of the season. Fans need to calm down a little bit. And if we do that and we have a good couple of weeks, then we could be in the Champions League and we could be 1 point behind Celtic. So it's not all you hear. And Rangers players in the media as well. Boyd has had a shocking couple of weeks, by the way, the crap that he's been speaking in the media. So I just think everyone needs to calm down a little bit and see where we are in 4 weeks' time. And if it does completely blow up and we're knocked out of the Champions League and we're pumped from Celtic, then fans have got every right to go mental. But preempting these things and saying, oh, this is going to happen, this player's shite, this is rubbish, Martin doesn't know what he's doing, everyone just needs to calm down a little bit, mate. That's what I would say. It's early days, relax, let's see what happens over the next couple of months.
I would agree with you totally. And Ross was following up from that then. So the social media has been awash with people saying, Martin can't do it and so forth. The style of football's rubbish, etc., etc. Now, we brought in a board, we brought in a new football director, whatever they're called, and they made it abundantly clear that the style of football they're going to play and the ideology and all the other stuff we talked about is going to be this possession-based football that dominates the ball, etc., etc., etc. So whether it be Russell Martin, David Ancelotti, whoever it may have been, the style of play was probably going to be the same. And if Russell Martin fails, the next guy they bring in is still going to the same style of football anyway.
Aye. I just see even bonkers stuff like in the comments. I don't think anyone else wanted the job. I think Martin was the only person that wanted it. Martin was the fifth choice. Like, guys, they told you. You can see he speaks well. He's got a track record. They got Southampton up through the hardest league probably to get out in the world, I would say, the English Championship. Get through a playoff final against a team that were heavy favourites against them. He's got a formation that works. You hear players. We heard Rothwell when he spoke about him after the playoff final when he was talking about the letters under the door and that. He's got an affinity with players. He could be the person that brings the dressing room together. And I just think to myself, like, you think of Postecoglou. See the laughing they're doing at us the new under Martin. We were doing the same when Postecoglou came in across the city. When Gerrard left, we were 6 or 7 points clear and we were confident. And then gone in towards the kind of the second round of games, they clicked, motored on, and they were gone into the distance. So it can happen. Like if you beat them at Ibrox, there's a point in it, and you're coming out the backside and saying we're 1 point behind and we've bedded a new system. And just think, in the words of Roy Keane, I just think relax. I think we've just got to chill. I think we've got to keep our feet on the ground. I think that I've said before on here, this American investment arm have put the guts of £100 million to get their feet under the table. They never done that to then go through a lengthy interview process and no take the guy that most aligns with there. So if they hadn't come in, you'd still have the bowling club bunch running it. So they've come in, they've put their money where their mouth is, we've front-loaded the investment. They believe in what Martin's selling. Everybody will tell you it was the strictest interview process. So as you say, see this style of football, you better get used to it because that's what the American investors want us to play like. That's why they're bought into his methodologies around the game. And that's why he's here. And I think that's why he'll get as long as it takes for it to click. Because I really believe that through listening to ex-players and supporters of other clubs, Leeds fans told you the 49ers don't make very many bad decisions. And Southampton fans have told you that it clicks. After a while, it clicks. So you're taking them at face value and let's see where it goes. As I say, totally different style of play, totally different atmosphere at games. After the first Olympic, I'm sure it was the first Greek game, Panathinaikos, we had a chat on here and I said it straight away. Giga had the ball, played it across to Suter played it to Butland. Butland put it back to Shooter. Their centre forward ran in and Shooter played it back across and Giga ran away and Ibrox was booing because we'd played that backward. That's the whole purpose. The whole purpose is you get them, you draw them out and then you play. Now, is that going to work when they indeed don't want to come out? Well, and that's the case where you're going to need to start playing your two centre halves on the edge of their 18-yard box if you need to, and that's where it's going to take a bit of getting used to. Is how far can you push up before it gets too clustered and doesn't work? And that's what Russell Martin's going to need to put the feelers out and find out how he unlocks that, because he's never played against a low block like that before.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And as I say, 6 weeks in, 2 league games in. So I'm going to ask you about a slightly more controversial question, right? So I've been thinking about this earlier on. So we talk about styles and identities and ideology, and we've been crying out for something since Steven Gerrard left after these 3 years and eventually get success. With Gio, who took us to a European Cup final, was sacked in October and it didn't go well. With Beale, who won, 18 out of the first 20 games, sacked in November, October, when it didn't go well. Comes in, put up a league challenge, win a league cup, got us to the 2 next cup finals, sacked when it didn't go well. And now Martin's in 3-4 weeks later, we're now wanting him sacked. Do you think there's, I suppose my question is are the fans really helping the situation? Is maybe the question I would ask. Do we need to start to have a lot of patience and just see where it goes? Or is it just really no manager can succeed in this environment?
I think it's got a lot to do with the fact, Gary, we've only won one of the last 15 league titles. And I
If we
think
stop sack managers, we might have won more.
you could say that, but you could also say that they didn't deserve to be there any longer as well. Do you know that way? I just think it's an environment where you're in a one-team league at the moment because nobody's challenging Celtic. And we're not even putting a challenge in. See if we were putting a challenge in, it'd be totally different. And I know you were saying if we beat Celtic, we'll only be 1 point behind, but it's not he beats the man before them. And that's not a given the way we're playing. I think the problem is that the fans, there's a lot of Rangers fans who now go to games, are now watching it, never really seen us win anything. And they always look back at the stuff that maybe they were, like my nephew goes and he was too young to see winning stuff right on a regular basis. And that's what they want to see. And a lot of the older ones are getting more frustrated because they went through times where we won all the time. Basically, we won in everything that was in sight. And then now we've won nothing basically in the last few years. We get Scottish Cup at times, we win one league with the League Cup. It's not like trophies are flying out into the trophy room. So I think it's a mixture of things, Gary, and I think fans just want to see players on the park trying as well, and I think that's to do with it. I think the performance here is not like they have been bad, but I think if you're putting an effort in football now stats based, whether we like it or not, it's everything stats based. So when you're coming up behind, like we've conceded all these chances in 6 games, it looks awful. It looks really, really bad. And then but you've got this possession, but you've only created this XG for goals, and that's the way football is. And I'm not a big fan of it because I think your eyes tell you different, but that's the way football is. And I think when you see that, people start to panic as well. It's like, my God, we've had 65% possession or 70% possession, but we've only created enough for 1.5 goals, and like Dundee had hardly any possession and they scored a goal and hit the post. And so I think people are looking at that and also looking at the way they're playing. I think it's a whole mixture of stuff, Gary. I think the fans are frustrated. We were on a high when the owners came in. Everybody was. And I know things doesn't happen overnight, but now they've seen this. And like I said, it's domestic for them. It's no European for them. Even though he's getting slagged for that, but domestic things everybody's looking at. And we are fickle. Fans are always fickle. And you know yourself, if he wins the next 4 league games, we'll be saying, right, it's clicked, it's turned. But and then if we lose the next 4 league games, or we come at end of August and we're 10 points behind him, it'll be toxic. It will be toxic. So, and it's no, it's partly his fault, partly the player's fault, but the fans are always going to act that way, no matter what happens, because as football fans, sometimes you go with your heart, sometimes you go with your brain, and sometimes it's really release to get things off your chest. That's it, football. So I think was always going to be in a difficult job just because there's not a lot of Rangers fans that wanted him in in the first place. So I think he didn't have a lot of time. But is he going to get a time? Nobody knows. I think it's silly sacking him, but also we'll say if it continues this way, then there'll be a point where they can't think it's silly. But we just hope over time he implements his style. He did say when he first came in it'll be pretty, but we'll have to get results. And I think that's stuck in a lot of people's minds because they look back at Motherwell and they think, right, we've been poor, but you're not getting the results. And to be honest with you, Gary, we're squad of players, no matter how bad we play, we should still be beating the likes of Motherwell and Dundee. And that's not being disrespectful to them. We should still be beating them.
Oh, definitely. I don't think anybody would doubt that at all. I don't think there's any doubt on that. Well, it probably takes my last question on the whole first couple of weeks of Russell Martin here, I suppose, Ricky. You talk about, I've heard, or I've listened to some pods as well, same as you have, this whole thing that the players can't play the system, the players aren't good enough to play the system, the players don't have the ability to take in these instructions. Now, for what is maybe 8 or 9 of those first team players are international players, elite footballers, whatever level they're playing at, I find it slightly unrealistic that they don't have the ability to take on these instructions, particularly when you've got a guy like Liam Scales in the other team, and apparently, that can't be possible. There's this suggestion that the guys we've got aren't good enough to do what they should be able to
do. Gary, the problem is there's Neil Lennon's doing interviews with Ali McCoist on TalkSport, speaking about our club's mentality. For God's sake, mate, we're all scratching our head, right? And what you're saying is absolutely right and fine in theory, but we should be turning up to beat Dundee, Motherwell, Hibs, all these teams, right? But we had a management team last year. We had a manager strolling about Glasgow in a bright orange Ford pickup truck, playing a different formation with Scottish coaches, and the players were not listening to the instructions that were being told from the management team. Now, we all said in the summer we had to make changes and the team that started against Dundee had 6 new players in that team and 5 players from the old regime. And it's a different formation, it's a different style of football, but we're hearing the exact same stories as what we did last season, right? And it's okay saying, we can say, oh, this player's an international player, this player's that player, right? You can watch what Russell Martin is trying to do. Now, come on, John Souttar has never been a left-sided centre-back, even when you were playing Barry Ferguson's style of football. He's just not a left-sided centre-back. He's a right-sided centre-back with we were trusted him last season to be the number 1 pick as a right-sided centre-back. He's never been a left-sided centre. So that's a massive hole in the team to start with. Diamande's, Jesus, he's been so bad since the start of the season. It's absolutely incredible. Yefte, if we get 5 million for him from Brazil, by the way, oh my God, I'm speaking to my friends in Cyprus that do podcasts and everything. They're even posting it going, Rangers are the way to get 5 million for Yefte. Like, that is robbery of the century, by the way. I mean, going back to the last time we paid 6 million for Danilo, there's no been a transfer like that in world football, by the way. So there's players in the team that just do not suit still. And it's all right saying they're international players, they're this player, they're that player. It's very difficult to play and understand. You watch John Souttar on the ball, he's so slow on the ball trying to pass out from defence, Gary. He's a brilliant siege defender. He's a brilliant defender for Scotland because they're getting attacked against all the time. He's a good defender for Rangers in Europe. And you're right what you said in the group chat through the week. Every match, he will make 1 or 2 massive mistakes, but he's been like that since he signed for Rangers. The mistakes that he makes ever lead to a goal against us, a sending off, and that was in teams before. So if we need to give Russell Martin, okay, Mendy's been coming in all this week. Why that's not been announced, I've got no idea. But we need to get a left back. We need a striker. And we need to give Russell Martin the tools to implement this style of football. I still have massive concerns because you've got everyone ripping his tactics apart now on social media. I've not listened to that much podcast this week, but everyone's slagging him off and stuff like that. So he's got to make the little tweaks that he needs to make with the players he's got just now. And if he can do that over the next few weeks and we manage to get through this period, then great. But we need to see changes, Gary, because we cannot keep dropping points in the league. How much pain are we going to go through until we see this amazing fruit that's going to be dropping off the trees that we keep hearing about. Hopefully, it's going to be soon, mate. But just now, it's there's not been much for the fans to cling on to, and we need something to cling on to get back on the train, mate. And it needs to happen faster.
So, Ross, our 10th signing, as Ricky alluded to there, is about to come in the door. Was it Noble Mendy, a left centre back from Real Betis, £2 million or so. Little first team experience at that level. I suppose that's probably the final centre back we'll bring in. Does that concern you in some ways to have a 23-year-old, 20-year-old, and John Souttar as your 4 centre backs going for the rest of the season?
No, if they're good enough, Gary. What does concern me is if this boy doesn't come in and play at left-sided centre half, you've got £5.5 million worth of centre half sitting on the bench because they're deemed as no ready and project players. We already had a project player left-sided centre half in Ciara who we're trying to get rid of. So for me, when money's scarce and there's other positions need strengthened, you need to be bringing in, and especially what is my favourite Joshua Barry was telling me the other day, it was at 180 passes for Souttar and 125 for Giga or something the other night, the Dundee game, sorry. So we need to have a left-sided centre half who's the same as Giga on the other, pace to allow us to play that extra bit further up the park, but also one that can move the ball quickly, that doesn't need to take the extra touch that Souttar does, and that doesn't take as long to pick up the acceleration when big Souttar drops the shoulder and then it takes a wee half second to turn and he's now been getting caught out. It looks a half second slower this season for me as well when he's doing that marauding forward with the ball hang. The kind of Magic Bugera-esque drop with the shoulder that he does, and he's been caught a few times. And so this boy coming in, great, but he's got to play. We can't be spending the Fernandez one, 3.5 million rising to 2.5. If you listen to the Grim Reaper, he says about 2.5 initial up front, and he's not been seen, and we've not been great at the back, Gary. So I don't mind spending it, and I don't mind a boy coming in if he's good enough to play now, but we can't have £5 million worth of project players. We done it last season with Iggerman, had him sitting as a £2 million project player until Christmas, and then when he came on, he was dynamite. Like, no, if they're good enough, you've spent the money on them, let's get them involved in the team for the get-go. And if he can get in and registered at some point tomorrow, there's no better time than the weekend to give him and probably Fernandez a bit of game time to see what they've got about them.
No, I'd agree. And he's got to play, and Giga's obviously suspended as well. Scott, so the only other, I suppose the argument people are making now is that once we've got this Mendy in, the 2 positions we still want to fill before the end of the transfer window in 18 days is a striker and a left back, I think. And then presumably that by a dozen signings in and people will be relatively happy with the business over the period, maybe barely get some out.
Yeah, I mean, the left back, Gary, when you really need a striker, because I still feel like a man will be away. I still feel before the window closes, he'll be away. I think that's maybe the reason he's not playing. I know he said he's been behind in training and me goals and problems with visas and stuff, but I still think they're trying to get this money. I think there's teams interested, but not any offers. But I think there's teams obviously spoke with the club and they're trying to do the salesman stuff and get it over the line so they can think, well, if we have a wee bit extra money, we can go out and buy maybe 2 players with that. So I think he will be away. Personally, I think if he's fit, he should be playing. I think on his day, he is your best striker, but we do need another forward in. I don't know how long Dessers out for. We all know he's not the answer long term, but I don't know. Is it confirmed what he did? He get an ACL? Or is it not been confirmed yet? No, not said. And Danilo's, I feel sorry for him at times because he come on the partner night and he was trying his hardest, but it's just not there for me. It's just not there. So I think they're a striker, a left back, but also feel in a midfielder. Do you know what I mean? I feel we need, unless he can be more adapting when he's playing, because I feel the centre backs do get too much of the ball. Listen, centre backs always have a lot of passes because in modern football, any kind of football, they have a lot of the ball anyway, centre backs. But I do feel somebody's got to sit in that position, either it be Rothwell, Raskin, or either somebody else to take the ball off him. I feel with too much passes coming for the centre backs, and the one that last week, so I tried to play through to Raskin, Raskin made the run and Suter tried to play it through, but the ball was never getting there because Dundee had 2 players. They had 2 players there, so I was never getting through to them, and then they would get caught and you could get sent off. But so I think maybe bring in somebody who's more can play the 6 role better, like a quarterback. Because I think you look at Rothwell's career, he's always been an 8. And I know he doesn't like he's getting legs, but he's always been an 8 on the right side. And even Martin put him in at Southampton, so to bring him up here and think that he can sit there and just stroll about, sometimes that doesn't work. It brings me the Joey Barton vibes, do you know that way? Where he came up here and started to think he could swan about and it didn't happen. So, and I think Rothwell's decent, but I just feel when the game speeds up a bit, he's kind of caught Gary because he's not getting any pace to get back.
So, Ricky, I was watching the comments here, right, as Scott was talking, and not that the talk was interesting, Scott, I was listening to that as well, but it was, Ricky, there was comments were saying that they're all here for the Ricky rants, so why don't you, can I tell, so, I don't know if you've got any rants you want to get off your chest before the next topic.
Cyril Dessers, mate, honestly, 2 weeks I backed that idiot. 2 weeks I backed that fool. And oh my God, the worst ACL or ankle injury I've ever seen in my entire life. Diving to the ground because the guy touched his face and he does his ACL or his ankle. Honestly, nobody wants to see a player injured, but honestly, Ross summed them up. Sugar or shite, and most of the time, absolute shite. When was the last time he was sugar? Honestly, that guy is a walking rant, as Dessers. We should have took the money from AK Athens. And unfortunately, we didn't, and now we're going to be stuck with an injured player for the next 6 months because he dived and managed to bust his knee or his ankle, whatever it was, mate. Honestly, nobody makes me rant more than that striker. We need a decent striker in, mate, and it has to happen soon.
And Sniper, he put a question up a minute ago, and I can't remember what it was, but it's basically saying Champions League qualification, win a cup and a challenging league, would that be satisfactory for Martin's first season?
Yeah, it would. And fans are behind that. Fans are not upset because fans are backing what the club are trying to do. But we're all excited in the summer with the American owners being serious for a minute. But we're excited. We trusted their judgment with Russell Martin. And I think a lot of the support still trust their judgment with Russell Martin. It wasn't like the options weren't Russell Martin, Jurgen Klopp, Jose Mourinho, Carlos Ancelotti. The choices were Russell Martin, Ancelotti's son, who's never had a management gig in his entire career. And I can't even remember. They were like, who?
Gerrard, maybe.
But Gerrard was never taking it. He's loads of money, man. He's like a sketch show in the Middle East collecting money that you could never dream of. There's no way he was coming back to Glasgow. His family, that's a complete different story, all that one. But so the options weren't exactly, and now we're here. I think what the fans are very fickle nowadays because of social media and everything, Gary. But we want to see tangible, like something to get behind. Basically, we want to see good performances. We want to see the team on the up, and I think fans are just being so. It's been so like seesaw. But as I said to you, we've got four massive games coming up, and if Martin can get good results in these matches, if we beat Celtic and it's back to 1 point, Ross hit the nail on the head earlier on. You're implementing a new style. It was a slow start for Postecoglou as well, but I mean, fans are going on about it was a little bit different in the way they played and everything like that. But he was getting the same shit as Russell Martin's getting just now, so. Hopefully it does turn around. To be fair to Russell Martin, he's smug as anything in press conferences and he's sitting there going, just tranquila, everyone tranquila, everything is going to be okay. So if that's the case, then fantastic. But fans in Glasgow are very impatient and we want to see it now. So hopefully we'll start seeing things turn around very fast. And it starts on Saturday with a good performance and a few goals against Alloa. Few new players making it'd be great to see Egerman back in the team, Asgard, Moore, these sort of names. It would be fantastic. So I hope we'll see that on Saturday, Gary.
Just put a comment up from listening from LA. We've international viewers. That's good to see, Cliff. Ideal. So about the last 5 minutes, Ross, there's no point talking about other guys that may go out because nobody knows what's going to happen with them. They're Davies and that. I'm fed up talking about Davies and Red Van going to Turkey and etc. Look at the Alloa game then. So it's Saturday night. Obviously, it's a game we should be looking to make some changes. You've got guys like Asgard, Moore, Igaman, Fernandez, Barron, Rice, Curtis, Cortez, Dowell, Bayrami, Kelly, tons of players that probably have not been starting games. How wholesale changes would you go, and kind of what ones would you like to see in a game starting off?
Yeah, I don't actually think I would go wholesale, mate. I think I would give more or less the same team the option to go and redeem themselves after the last two abject performances and get another 90 minutes or another 60 minutes anyway in the legs. Potentially dropping Suter and getting either Fernandez or the boy Mendy some minutes, because obviously the St Mirren game you're going to have Suter back in and Giga dropping out through his suspension. I'd like to see Raphael back in. I'd like to see Asgard and potentially Cameron playing ahead. I'd like to see Gassama maybe dropping out and the boy Moore getting game time, but given Ant-Man and Igaman, that would be roughly where I would be looking to go with it. I don't think I wouldn't go full change the 11 or anything like that, Gary. I think that the more minutes we can get in players in front of fans, because a lot of them will still be acclimatising to the actual expectations of playing in front of fans. Obviously a lot of pre-season was spent with bounce games, and maybe what should be, with no disrespect to Alloa, what should be an opportunity for them to go and put on a show. And what we were talking about there with Postecoglou, his team did beat St Mirren, and was it Dundee 6-0 one after the other early in his tenure, and that's probably what bought him a bit of time when the other results weren't going great. So this could be the difference. Plus one of the boys I work with, Curtis Roberts, plays with Alloa, and I'm sure he scored at Ibrox the last time he played against us, maybe for Stirling Albion, maybe. Pretty sure he did. Could be talking absolute shite. I mean, on the last one, I did say Mikey Moore played for Man City, and Russell Martin and Joe Rothwell mixed up. So they've got long hair, Gary. They look the same.
I wouldn't worry much. Ricky thought we were playing Lech Poznan up 10 times last week, so it's mistakes to make. So I've seen a few people talk about Giga. Giga's suspended for the game, so he won't be playing. I think, if I'm right, remember that. Giga's suspended for this game and the Severn game before he's able to come back. Is that right?
No, he's only got one. Is it not just a one game for the league game?
Is it just league game?
I think it's. I'm sure. I
don't know. Somebody may throw in the comments. I thought it was a 2-game ban, and because it's League Cup, that's why he was suspended for this as well. Maybe wrong. Scott, in terms of the game then, so guys like, would you Bayrami and Dowell get heavily praised by Russell Martin? Would you look to switch up them and maybe give them a game in the number 8 on Saturday?
I think he has to go be strongest. I think first and foremost he's got to get a result, Gary. I think that's unavoidable. He can't not get a result against Alloa. I think if he does, he's ending his own life sentence at Ibrox. But I think he has to go and get a result. Listen, he's kind of on a hiding to nothing. If he wins 2-0, he's going to criticise because you know 1-6 because people think it's Alloa, but sometimes, as we've seen last season against Queen's Park, these things don't work out that well. I think he's got to play strongest 11, who he thinks it is, and just go with it, and then you can bring. I think maybe Moore will start because I think he's actually ready to start. It's just obviously because he's age and getting through all the different documents it took till he was turned 18 to go straight in. So I think he might start. Asgard, I think, will be on the bench. He's not really played a lot of football since training camp, and he'll get eased into the game. But I think he has to start his strongest 11, Gary. Just kind of win the game early, hopefully, and then he can bring other players on and settle them in.
Yeah. And Ricky, I don't know, you obviously get your team lineups normally, but I suppose a couple of questions. Tav or Aaron's right back, because one will, assuming the other one then starts on the Tuesday night.
Well, I think both of them might play, to be honest, because depending on what's happening with Yefty, with these rumours about him going to Brazil, if there was a 5-6 million and the club maybe know a bit more than we do about it, then it wouldn't be surprised if you see Aaron's back at left back. But it'll probably, if not, and like it's just rumours in the press, then I imagine you'll see Yefty and Tavernier again, because I think he'll keep Aaron's. I know Aaron's, I don't know how much he's trained since they've came back, well, from the big match through the week and stuff like that. So I'd imagine it'll still be Tavernier at right back. That's what I'd imagine that you're going to see.
What about Kelly or Butland? Stick with you.
No, still Butland 100%. I mean, I know it's a cool thing to do, bring in Kelly and stuff like that, but the drop off with these two is so massive. I don't think you know what you're going to get from Kelly, so I don't think you need to bring him in to keep him fresh just in case. I think you know what you're going to get with Kelly, so he came in from the cold towards the end of last season, mate. So I would just keep. I think Kerr's hit the nail on the head. You need to go as strong as you possibly can. This is not a normal situation where you rest players and you think, okay, we'll play it again on Tuesday night. The players have had plenty of rest. So I think you can bring in a few players here and there, maybe 4 or 5 changes, but still play your strongest lineup to get the result and put on a decent performance, because the manager needs that. We can't afford. The thing is, Gary, we've seen during pre-season, when we bring in our so-called weaker players, it looks worse than even. I mean, the game against Middlesbrough when he brought in a weakened team was so bad until he brought in a so-called first team. But so I think you need to go as strong as you can and just make it like bring in your usual 5 substitutions in the second half. I don't want to see a massive change to the team and then expect the players to come off the bench to try and salvage it, because it's going to be. Alloa's basically going to use Dundee's blueprint. It's going to be 5-3, 2, but it's going to basically be 10 men against behind the ball. So it's going to be tough for us to break that down. You get the first goal, everything's easy, but it's going to be a tough match. Alloa actually beat Dundee, I think, in the League Cup and these pre-season games. So Jesus Christ.
Let's give you a score then, Ricky, as we wrap up then, since that's just over an hour.
Well, I said 5-0 last week, so I'll go 1-0 Rangers, tap penalty.
Ross.
Need to start by caveat, and Curtis never scored. We beat them 4-0 at Ibrox. I was checking that there, and like, did he score? I don't think. Anyway, I'm going to go in typical after what I've said earlier about the other side. I'm going to go 6-0, and that'll be the start of the turnaround, Gary. 6-0.
That's the positivity we like to see. Scott, you bring it back down to earth then with a bit of negativity.
No, I'm going 4-1, Gary. I think they'll score, because I just think we're too open at the back, so I think they'll score. But I think we'll score 4 ourselves, and I think Mikey Moore will score a goal. I think he'll be up for the game just to show why he's been brought here.
So that does for this evening. I think that's probably covered enough. We've had a long debate. I've seen some comments saying, this has been a bit more positive than some of the other podcasts I listen to, so I'm glad that it's been less of a rant about Russell Martin, maybe a bit more measured in some of our views. For tonight, anyway, we'll see what happens come the weekend. Come Monday, it could be full-scale ranting if it all goes horribly wrong, which we hope it doesn't. I will be at the Heart and Hand live podcast. All right, I'll be the one that's telling above everybody, apparently, for anybody that's seen me. So if you're there and you watch all these other pods, come up and say hello. Other than that, Scott's will be in England for the weekend. Ricky will be in 45-degree heat with just his thong on. And I don't know about Ross, what your weekends entails.
Oh my goodness. I don't know actually what my weekend entails. Prove anything but watching Rangers, probably, mate. That's the way my last couple of games it's went. Having more last weekend and camping the following weekend. So I think I might have to actually watch us this weekend, which is unfortunate. You better watch yourself. What I hear, Stevie Clifford might be about the right height just to headbutt you right in the goal now.
About the stomach.
Headbutt you. You'll be like a speedball for him like that.
And on that note, so we will be back on Monday evening. Please like, share, and subscribe. All that stuff. There's been lots of people watching tonight. Thursday night seemed to gather a big audience there looking at, and lots of comments. Thank you for your participation. We will see you on Monday. Take care, everybody. Bye now.